Whoever is faithful in very little is also faithful in much. The Lord demands fairness in every business deal. He established this principle. The Lord hates cheating and delights in honesty. The Lord despises every kind of cheating. The Lord loathes all cheating and dishonesty. Recognizing and honoring the Lord's presence is essential for gaining wisdom. We must humble ourselves before Him, as we are dependent on His control over our words and actions. Even if we are self-assured, He sees the truth of our hearts and will correct our ways. By committing our works to Him, He will establish what is good. His wisdom and knowledge are all-encompassing, and even the wicked will glorify His righteousness in their punishment. Those who oppose Him will not escape retribution, but those who fear Him will be guided to righteousness and success. Trusting in the Lord brings happiness, as He observes every detail and directs all events, even what seems like chance. From settling disputes to overseeing commerce, everything is under His watchful eye and concern. The Lord is interested in our business and trade, reflecting the Old Testament's emphasis on honesty and fairness in economic dealings. The Deuteronomic and Levitical laws prohibit dishonest practices and emphasize the importance of just weights and measures to maintain God's favor. The chosen people were reminded that their work was approved by God, as mentioned in Ecclesiasticus and Isaiah. They were told to not dislike hard work or farming, as it was all part of God's plan. In Isaiah, the work of agriculture is described as being taught by God, who is wonderful in counsel and wisdom. The focus is on trade in the past, specifically on the cheating that occurred in the exchange of goods. Merchants would use slightly deficient weights and measures to cheat customers out of small amounts on each sale. However, if a knowledgeable buyer or inspector appeared, the merchants would quickly switch to using accurate measures to avoid being caught. This type of fraud may seem simple, but it takes time for more sophisticated forms of deception to develop in a society. In our current times, I want to address those involved in business, whether as employers or employees, in wholesale or retail. I won't be criticizing your specific business practices, as that would be disrespectful and unwise. It's not my place to interfere in matters I don't fully understand. Instead, I want to remind you that God knows everything that happens in your business and values honesty while despising deceit. I encourage you to reflect on your actions and ensure they align with His expectations. Let me mention these points further as a fellow man and Christian. Many of us believe that God only pays attention to major events in our lives, like birth, death, and significant milestones. We may think that He doesn't bother with the everyday details or small things that happen. However, this thinking is flawed and illogical. God, who created the vast universe, is capable of noticing even the smallest details of the smallest objects. Just like how a microscope reveals the intricate beauty of tiny creatures, God's care extends to every aspect of His creation. Jesus emphasized this by pointing out that even a sparrow doesn't fall without God's knowledge, and He knows the number of hairs on our heads. When considering the mind of God, there is no clear endpoint. He knows every aspect of our lives, both significant and insignificant. Every detail, from birth to death, is captured by His all-knowing nature. Just as a camera captures even the smallest details, God comprehends every transaction and interaction in our daily lives. God closely watches and judges how you conduct your business, approving honesty and condemning dishonesty. Even small decisions that may seem insignificant to others are noted by Him. You may have faced a moral dilemma recently, considering a questionable action to increase profits. Ultimately, you chose the right path despite potential financial loss, feeling unsure if your decision was too cautious. God sees and appreciates your integrity, strengthening your moral character. Many may be worried that dishonest business practices are not overlooked by a higher power. Even if financial records seem clean to human accountants, God may see things differently. Some may have gained wealth through questionable means, leading to a damning record in the eyes of God. The suffering of those affected by unethical actions does not go unnoticed by the divine observer. The unjust balance remains abominable to the Lord, despite the increased competition and refined methods of fraud in modern industrial life. Questionable practices may seem necessary to survive, but God does not require us to stay afloat. The warm reception of Lazarus in heaven after his struggles on earth suggests that failures here may be seen as successes there. However, double dealing is always abominable in God's eyes. Some people may succeed through dishonest means, but it is not a guarantee of true prosperity. The idea that honesty is always the best policy is not necessarily true, depending on your goals. Worldly success does not equate to moral righteousness in the eyes of God. Those who profit from unethical practices may ultimately face ruin and regret. Order all your business ways in the sight of God, focusing on conforming to His will, rather than the judgment of others. Don't rely solely on your own conscience, as it may be compromised. Many wrongdoers justify their actions with twisted logic, while the truly innocent suffer. To ensure success in business, it is crucial to submit all your practices to God's judgment. In today's competitive world, it may be harder to maintain honesty and integrity, but seeking God's guidance can help overcome temptations and challenges. By acknowledging His presence and seeking His strength, you can align your actions with His will and achieve success in the face of difficulties. Let's break down how Proverbs 20:23 can guide society today, supported by relevant New Testament scripture. Proverbs 20:23. The Lord detests differing weights, and dishonest scales do not please Him. How this guides society today. Upholds honesty in commerce and daily life. In today's world, this proverb reminds us that ethical business practices, honest advertising, fair pricing, and truthful transactions are not just good business, but are moral obligations. Promotes trust. Societies thrive when people trust one another. Dishonest dealings, corruption, and deceit undermine relationships, economies, and institutions. Personal integrity. This principle extends to personal life, being truthful in speech and action, whether in professional or private dealings. New Testament support. 1. Ephesians 4:25. Greater than therefore each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor, for we are all members of one body. Application. This teaches that honesty and truthfulness are core to Christian living and community. Just as Proverbs warns against dishonest scales, Paul urges believers to be truthful in every aspect of their lives. 2. Colossians 3:9. Greater than do not lie to each other, since you have taken off your old self with its practices. Application. Christians are called to a new standard of conduct, one that rejects deceit and embraces honesty, echoing the wisdom of Proverbs. 3. Luke 16:10. Greater than whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. Application. Jesus teaches that integrity in small matters leads to trust in greater things, reinforcing the value of honesty in all dealings. Summary for today's society. Proverbs is a timeless call for integrity and fairness, values that are essential for healthy communities, whether in ancient times or today. The New Testament continues and strengthens this teaching, emphasizing honesty, truthfulness, and integrity as marks of a transformed and Christ-like life. When individuals and societies embrace these values, they build trust, foster justice, and reflect God's character to the world. Peace and trust now and always.